All right, everybody. So you guys know the drill. Let's go ahead and just get started. Blue Eyes, I think day 2. I don't think it's the worst deck in the world, honestly. But obviously one of the more underpowered decks. You can easily lose this deck at any time. It has some crazy cards going for itself. Drill Beam is still very powerful. Everyone knows the Primate cards are actually like still pretty good, regardless of what people say. Which is like, you know, in tying to that, Odeon next, it won the YCS last time, although it was kind of like an anomaly with only one person winning, and then we kind of didn't see it again. It's a deck that doesn't lose a dimensional barrier, which is crazy. I'm going to be saying that a lot. Pretty solid. I don't think it can win again. I do think it was like a once type of thing, but the fact that it won a YCS before means that it can easily top again. I for sure want to put it in top 8. I do not want to disrespect Odeon, the man with the mark. Very, very strong. Branded got the new structure deck support. I think it's very strong, and it was probably a top 8 deck prior. Now with its worst nightmare out of the way, we all know who I'm talking about. It's fucking like Voldemort out here with that trap, right? It's definitely a YCS winning contender, probably on the lower end, but I do want to give it a shot. That I do think it could finally win a YCS. Like a lot of things going for itself. Main one being the new update, right? The Ozette deck. This deck probably not that good still. Without Dimensional Barrier, it can synchro more now, but I don't think that was the problem with this deck before anyway. The problem is just that like it's a worse combo deck than a lot of the other decks, and it has the non-engine problem where it can't play that much. So I don't think this deck is that great. Draco Tail, pure for sure in top 8 or somewhere in top 8. I don't think it can win without an extra support, which I probably should put like Draco Tail and Branded together. So I'll just put it up here just to kind of show that, you know, it's Draco Tail and Branded, but probably Draco Tail itself without the Branded engine, probably not still, unless it has like some support. I know it won Sao Paulo, but I don't know if it can really do it again, because I do think now, because of Dimensional Barrier being banned, it makes it so that this deck is more targeted. And I know like that doesn't make any sense because you can't really target it because Dimensional Barrier is gone, but you can play cards such as like more like banishing cards, like even different dimension ground or something like that, right? So people are definitely going to try to find replacements, which I think like when a deck has the illusion that it's like good, then people like try to find sneaky ways around it. But when it's not good, people just sweep it under the rug. But I still think it's obviously a YCS winning deck. Like it doesn't have to play the Dimensional Barrier, and it was already pretty good before, right? Yummy, pure Yummy, I'm gonna say top 8. I think you need to play a secondary engine, which I'll just move on to the next one because everyone knows pure Yummy at this point. Is the Yummy Soulcord deck. Now I do think this deck was absolutely insane. Happiness being very good going second. One of its Soulcord cards, look that up if you guys haven't seen that already. It's like, dude, e-tail these cards, right? Which is like absolutely crazy. Obviously, it had the Dimensional Barrier problem, which it's more of a synchro-based deck, even though it can pendulum, but it's like irrelevant. Which is why like Mitsu was good before, because Mitsu could solve that problem, but like now like you don't have to deal with that problem. So like, and also going first, this thing puts up an Omni in its board, right? Which we're going into a format right now that's going to be projected to be playing a lot of board breakers because the FTKs are gone, and because of that, I think that the Yummy Soulcord deck being able to put an Omni negate, being able to not care about Dimensional Barrier, is a very, very strong contender. Actually, this is definitely the deck that I'm going to be looking at, or one of them, right? Next up, the DDD deck wasn't strong before. It didn't have a Dimensional Barrier problem, or I mean, it doesn't matter because like nothing changed around this deck, to be honest. So I don't think it's a pretty strong deck at all. Mitsurugi Pure, definitely put it in top 8. Now I know you probably would expect me to put it in YCS winning because of the Dimensional Barrier ban, and then this deck is one of the decks that suffers from Dimensional Barrier the most, but I think this deck out of the top decks is one of the more inconsistent ones. It has less starters than all the other ones, and with how YCSs are ran nowadays with like 14 round tournaments, I don't think this deck can last very long in a long event before you start bricking like crazy, which is why the other decks, if you guys notice, Draco Tail, Yummy Soulcord, these are all decks with like 15 to 20 starters, right? So like, not only are they powerful, but they're very consistent over something like Mitsurugi Pure. But once again, obviously top 8 giving it its flowers because it doesn't have to deal with Dimensional Barrier anymore, and it can play Dominus Impulse. I just don't think it can last in a long tournament setting for a very long time, right? Next up, K9 Christian, top 32. It lost, obviously, the reason why it won. But once again, it doesn't mean it's a bad deck. Infinity, Trap, FA Dawn Dragster, K9 Engine, Ripper into Werewolf. Dude, like, it's a pretty spread out interruption. Actually, you can't just like answer this with a clean Dark Ruler or Droplet, right? Like they still have the trap, they still have Force Release, and all that backed up. Not to mention that people are going to be cutting more hand traps now, so this deck can probably get away with, like, you know, some more crimes that it does, because there's definitely other variations that you can do with, you know, K9 cards and level 5s. It just probably hasn't been solved yet, so something that you want to be able to keep in mind, especially now that, you know, similar to how YCS Anaheim, when it won, people just started playing breakers. So we go back to that again, it could find like a sneaky way to win. Obviously its main culprit of Mjolnir is gone now, so like the board is a lot more like, you know, you can deal with it a lot more, because you, with the Dark Ruler now, you just have to play through Werewolf and Trap the cluster, which is pretty annoying to be honest, but like at least you can do that versus Mjolnir where you can't. So I don't think this deck is completely discarded to like the trash, but I do think that obviously it's weaker, but I think it's like it can compete. Like, this is what I'm trying to say. Yummy Mitsurugi, definitely YCS winning deck. It's literally probably the best deck right now, if not the second best deck, and nothing changed about it. Literally nothing changed about it, like at all, like literally at all. So it was probably a good deck to play Dimensional Barrier in, similarly to how all these decks are. So that's not really a perk or anything with the deck. But now you just swap out, you know, some cards that are banned, which is basically Dimensional Barrier, and put in like Solemn Warning, which, by the way, you can also do something very degenerate with this deck, which I probably will talk about in another video. But you can just make the level 1s into Fuko, Winged Beast, and then flip Harpy's Featherstorm. Obviously a little bit like more out of your way than Dimensional Barrier, but like not really. Also, another thing is, if we're on the topic of Yummy, if people are playing board breakers, you can consider playing Ibli now too. Lots of degenerate strategies out there, which is also, I don't know, like maybe I should make a whole video on why, like, the ban list. Obviously, I'm very happy about the ban list. There's no complaints at all, but like, man, people are just gonna keep finding ways to terrorize the scene no matter what you do, right? So, Yummy Mitsurugi, yeah, we'll put that there. Rise of Mitsugiri, I put it in top 32. I made a whole entire video about this, about why it's good, and I still think a lot of points stand, so check that out if you haven't. Detonator being like not a card in the format means that people just don't have specific outs for it, and I think it's totally fine, because the Rise of Mitsugiri deck doesn't really need Ouroboros. It can just end on the crossboard. You can always play Gallant Granite to search Nibiru, Dugaris, draw, and people just have a tough time dealing with Rise Cross plus Detonator. Like, come on, man, like, without cards that specifically target Detonator, which, you know, when Ryzel was good, people played like Metatronus, Books, and obviously those cards aren't around anymore. So, you know, I definitely think, like, in terms of where the format is, obviously it's weaker and it's not the best deck at all, but I wouldn't be surprised if some like got top 32, because like sometimes, man, they summon Detonator and I'm like, dude, I can't out this card. It's too good sometimes. Yeah, next up is the pure K9 deck, which is probably a day 2 deck. If you're gonna do this, just play K9 Crystron. They're literally the same, except one has a more powerful secondary engine, very similar to how like Yummy is in my top 8, and Yummy Soulcord and Yummy Mitsurugi are in a tier higher than that. So like, just the same thing, right? Like, just why play the pure version when there's 2 more powerful versions, and in this case Crystron is the more powerful version. Draco Majestus deck, I originally thought was pretty good, but I do think the branded version is a little bit better, so I will put it under here, and especially a lot better now with the new support with the branded cards too. Not really sure if it's utilized very in Draco, but I know it's for sure used in the regular build. But if you're looking for a Draco deck to play, it's definitely just branded, so I will put this here, because I don't think the deck is even that bad to put it in top 32. I think the Majestus cards are pretty good. It's obviously missing the main one, Spoon, which, if you guys don't know that card, it's basically just making the Majestus engine more complete and full, which is not out yet, right? So it's definitely a deck to look out for. I think it's pretty good, but not as strong as the YCS winning decks. Sky Striker, Radiant Typhoon, I'll put it top 32. I used to have it at like not at all, but I've played against this deck a good amount, and sometimes it comes down to the wire, to be honest. Like, sometimes I'm really just praying that their hand just is not strong enough and they can't push through the board at the very end. But you know, it has its own flaws, and obviously the Droll and Lockbird problem, which I do think Droll and Lockbird will still keep seeing play because of Yummy Mitsurugi being projected as like the best deck, quote unquote. So like, it kind of gets hit in the crossfire, and yeah, and it's also kind of like a gimmick strategy, this deck, because it's like a go second, no hand traps, pray I break your board, right? And you know, those type of strategies are always like falling under like the gimmick type of strategies, I always think. So regardless, I do think sometimes you can obviously lose to it and it's very good, but relying on a strategy like this versus something normal as like the top decks, winning decks, where it's like, you know, just go first, have your non-engine, make your board and all that. Like a traditional standard deck is probably a lot better than any other deck that tries to pull some gimmick like tricks like this, right? K9 Vanquish Soul, same category as like day 2. These are just weaker versions of K9 Christian. So just play K9 Christian. Malice, I'll have this at top 32. I made an original video on why Malice is good before, but the video might be rendered irrelevant now because the biggest reason about why, and obviously there's a bunch of other reasons like it can play impulse and stuff like that, but the biggest reason why I thought Malice was good, and obviously it's still good, it's not like the worst deck now, is the fact that I didn't have to deal with dimensional barrier, but no one has to now. So one of its main benefits kind of just like dropped off, right? But it, you know, obviously if it goes uninterrupted, it's still like an FTK if it works, which you know, that's not really a reason to sell on the deck, because a lot of these decks are like, if you go first with K9 Christian, if you go first with Odeon set like 5 traps, or for example, it's still like an FTK almost, right? Like you're almost never breaking that. But yeah, I do want to include Malice in there as well. K9 Soulcord, there's a better Soulcord deck, and those are yummy cards, so just play that. Don't play this one. Lunalight, I think it's pretty interesting. I'll put it in top 8. I always rank Lunalight pretty high because I do think this is one of those decks where if you forget about it, it'll become good. And it's always, I think, up to the pilot sometimes, because this deck is very complicated, very intricate on how you sequence your lines and stuff like that, and it really punishes players for messing up. And at the same time, like I said, right, if we're going into this board breaker format and you're playing Raigeki Dark Ruler Droplet, well, I'll summon Liger and you lose. So there's a chance that we fall into a format where this deck aligns specifically very well because of the hand trap problem, and this deck didn't really get hit at all. And you also don't have to deal with dimensional barrier on fusions anymore, right? So that's very, very, very strong actually, because this is one of those decks that like can actually push through real interruption with its engine, and with the card that doesn't blanket your entire summoning mechanic. Thank you, Konami. It's pretty strong. I think this deck is going to be very good. And then next up is Gem Knight, which I do want to give it respects, but I do think it's more of a gimmick strategy as well, going second. And if you play as a going first deck, then you know it's very similar. Why don't you just play any other going first deck than that, right? So that's gonna be it for this new updated tier list. I think I did a pretty good job. Let me know what you guys think in the comments below, what deck you guys are playing, and let me know how excited you are about the ban list. I don't know. I'm very excited, obviously, but I don't think I've said anything that everyone else hasn't said already. But if you guys made it this far, don't forget to leave a like, comment, and sub, and I'll catch you all in the next one.